Good morning. Today we're in Shropshire and we're going to a place called Attingham Park House and Gardens. And the current house here was built in around 1785 and it was built in a classical style. So we're going to have a nice little explore around the house and the gardens. So we'll see what's going on. And as we approach, this is one of the old lodge buildings in front of us that we've just gone past. We shouldn't be too far from the entrance now. This is an old estate bridge that we're just going over now. Then Attingham should be on our right hand side, just up here. And I believe this Grand Lodge here is called the West Lodge, and this was sort of the main entrance. There's obviously a large parkland here surrounding the house. And eventually the house should come into view, I think. It's nice that you can actually drive through the main lodge to this house, because I know there's another 2 or 3 lodges and they don't sort of come up to the main house when you enter via those lodges. So here we go, you can see it coming into view from the side. There's a lot of cattle to our left, and I think they're in front of the stable block that was on our left as well. So there we go, you got the side and the front of the house there in front of us, and we'll be going round to the left. There we go, cattle grazing to our left, and then in front that's the stable block, I believe, and that's pretty grand in itself. And that's also in a classical style by the looks of it. And this should lead us up to the car park, I think. Okay, so on the way in, the first thing you'll come to is the old stable block. And these stables were purpose built at the same time as the house, and as you can see, they were built to impress by their size and their architectural detail in a classical style. And these were designed by George Stewart, who also designed the house. And as you saw on the drive in, these are positioned not too far away from the house. And sort of as you would have arrived back in the day, it would have been a bit of a demonstration of taste and wealth. So as you can see, even the stables were quite grand in themselves. And as we walk in, you can see that it's quite a size. And these stables were actually designed to home 56 horses, and there were also carriage houses and living space for the relevant staff, and various other rooms in here as well. And in the modern day, this area is actually home to a bookshop and cafe and stuff like that. Basically somewhere for people to relax and stuff like that. Let's have a look inside some of the stalls. These are posh. So Lord Berwick's racehorses had the most luxurious stalls, and as you can see they've got curved dividing walls, and they're even adorned with urns on the top. So these would have been reserved for the best horses. But even the other horses still had spacious stables with grooved stone floors for good drainage and stuff like that. Here's a larger run of stalls. As you can see, it's quite a decent building to keep animals in. So we'll leave the old stable block now and head up towards the mansion. There's a little cottage there attached to the side of the stable block. I'm assuming some of the senior staff involved with the horses would have lived there maybe. Just before we go around to the front of the house, I just thought I'd show you this. This is at the rear of the house, and it's sort of a classical archway with a sort of rotunda on the top. You don't see many features like this around. It's quite strange having that rotunda type building on the top there. And this is just the courtyard at the back of the house. We're just heading around the side of the house now to get to the front facade. So here we are, Attingham Hall, or as it's known, Attingham Park. So, this is the Grade 1 listed Attingham Park, and this was built in 1785 for Knowle Hill, 1st Lord Berwick, and this replaced a house on the site called Turn Hall. And the former house was called Turn Hall due to the River Turn that actually runs close by to the house, over to our right hand side. And as you can see from the front, the house is actually symmetrical, which is always pleasing. And Lord Berwick's family had made their money through politics, land deals, money lending and mining. With money that he'd inherited, the first Lord Berwick, Knowle Hill, commissioned the architect George Stewart to design a new and grander house to be built around the original hall. And the new house actually entirely encapsulated the old hall, and once completed it was given the new name Attingham Hall. Internal alterations were also made between 1805 and 1807 by the famous architect John Nash, and that included a picture gallery. During the First World War, Attingham was used as a hospital for wounded soldiers. The hospital opened in October 1914 and by 1918 had 60 beds and an operating theatre. And then during the Second World War, Edgbaston Church of England Girls' School was evacuated and lived in part of the house. And then later on, it hosted the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. After passing through the hands of various members of the family for generations, Attingham was donated to the National Trust in 1947 as a bequest in the will of the 8th Lord Berwick. And then between 1948 and 1976, the Shropshire Adult Education College occupied the hall. One thing I really like about this place is these curved colonnaded wings here. And then these wings lead on to a pavilion at each side. And then you've got these lovely cedar Lebanons just off to the side of the picture. So yeah, that's really nice. And let's go a bit closer to the front facade. And just go around the corner again. And that's the view in front of the house, by the way. Dominating this main south front of the building is this Ionic portico with a triangular pediment. Let's have a little walk up under this area. The house doesn't actually open for a couple of hours, but I will be going in when it opens. And these here are to clean your boots if you've been walking in the fields or whatever. And then just above, we've got the old equivalent of the doorbell that I think you used to pull that and it would alert the people inside. And these pillars are quite a size here. And from sitting under this portico, if I use my old zoom camcorder, can actually see a bridge in the far distance. And this was built in a classical style as well, to fit in with the house, and as a bit of an eye catcher from the house. And I'll pop down there a bit later on. I'm going to have a walk right down to it and we'll have a closer look. As you can see, it's a road bridge now with the cars going over. And it was actually originally built as a road bridge, but that would have been for horse and carriage. Okay, so I'll leave the house area for a bit and we're going to see what we can find in the gardens and Parkland before the house opens. Here's those lovely cedar Lebanon trees. We'll have a quick look at the ha-ha ditch now. You can actually see this one quite well. So this is the ha-ha. And what this would have done is kept your cattle and deer and whatever on these fields away from the house. And then they wouldn't be able to get near to the house, which is there. But what the ditch actually does is, it saves you having to put up a big fence, which would have spoilt the views out onto the parkland from the house. So that's why they built these ha-ha ditches. And this runs quite far, as you can see. Not far from the house, as I mentioned earlier, is the River Tern and this old bridge, which I will come back to shortly. But firstly, I'm in search of an old ice house that apparently was in this area somewhere, so I'm going to try and find that. And there's the house up there, just for reference of how far the river is from the house. This little gully looks promising up here. I'm not sure, because I've never been to this ice house before. Just down here, not far from the bridge, is the remains of what looks like it might have been an old boathouse or something, by the looks of it. You can see how close it is to the river. If I just try and get round this corner a little bit without sinking. Yeah, so maybe that was an old boathouse or something, and probably would have been a roof on it in the past. And you would have entered by the steps at the end down there. So the ice house wasn't actually down that way, but I'm glad I went down because I found that old boathouse anyway. The ice house might be over this side of the path, a bit nearer to the house. There's a couple of routes going into these trees, so I'm going to see what's inside. Oh, you can see it's actually a mound, so it might have, the ice house might have been here. Ah, so you can see these grills here to allow some air into the ice house now. And there's another one here. So I'm going to go down and try and find the entrance now. So hopefully this is the way into the ice house. Here we go. Attingham Park Ice House. Yeah, so in the winter you would have took ice off the river or out of a lake or whatever, and then you would have stored your ice down here to be used in the warmer summer months and stuff. So then you could keep your food fresh and stuff like that. There's a little gate off to the side here for some reason. As you can see from this picture, there probably would have been a thatched roof on this ice house, which was quite common for ice houses to have a thatched roof over the top. And that would have just give insulation and stuff like that. And this ice house dates back to around 1785 when the current house and stables were built. And this is grade 2 listed. As you can see, there's no entry at the moment. So this is the small estate bridge, not too far from the house. And as I've mentioned before, this goes over the River Tern. And apparently this dates to around 1780 and was by someone called William Hayward. And as we go through these gates and head into the Parkland, I'm going to take a right for quite a distance and go down to that classical bridge that we saw earlier. So yeah, I'm going to head right down there to the right for quite a distance. Now I think we need to go through this fence here. Well, that's disappointing. The actual gate down towards the bridge area is locked, as you can see. So I don't know if they'll open it later, or I might have to, when I leave the place later, I'll try and go to it from the other direction outside the park, maybe. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually get back to the classical bridge on the day, but luckily several years ago I went to Attingham and I went down to the bridge and I took some pictures at the time, so I'm just sharing those pictures now. And like I said earlier, this classical style bridge, this was built as a road bridge, and this was built between 1771 and 1780. And apparently this was also designed by William Hayward, who built the smaller bridge within the park. And this is grade 2 star listed. So as you can see, not only do you get a great view of the house from the bridge, but from the house you get a good view of the bridge as part of the landscape as well. And these types of views to and from the house were among the views proposed by Humphrey Repton when he was drawing up plans for the estate. So just on the edge of the estate, you can probably see just down there that there's another small lodge building, so that would have been a smaller entrance to Attingham. And you can probably rent that out now to stay in it or something. So the next point of call is this area in the woods, which is known as the World War II Walk. So during the 1940s, Attingham Airfield was built here, and it was initially used by the RAF in 1942, and it was used as a training base for American fighter pilots later in the war. As we go along, we might spot some concrete pads and remains of bunkers and buildings and stuff like that, so we'll keep an eye out. So there's the remains of a small building in the centre of the picture there, quite small. And then if we have a look along the bottom here, there's the remains of some kind of wall as well running along. Here it is a bit closer. And then as we head a bit further back, there's a pile of bricks just been sort of tossed up the back here. And a bit more towards the back there. And a bit further along we've got what looks like a concrete pad on the floor here. So that probably would have had a building of some sort on it at one time. You can see there's the bricks here. That would have been sort of the outer wall of the building. And the building would have been on there. And you've got more concrete here. A few bricks sticking out the bottom of this tree. And what's this little thing up here? Ooh. Some kind of little hut there. Ah, so it's actually like some sort of bunker under there. I think I'm going to have to pop in there. Ooh, wow. Here we go. So it's like a concrete shelter. Obviously the roof's gone from that end. But as you can see here, this bit's still got the roof on. Very interesting. A bit further along the path we have another concrete base of an old building. So there would have been quite a large building on this bit by the looks of it. On this sign here there's a picture of one of the old buildings. There you go. And apparently this one would have been living quarters. And look, here's an aerial image of the airbase. So according to the sign, this area became known locally as Little America, with up to 1,600 American service personnel living in the surrounding area, including many here at Attingham. There's another remains of a little brick building there. And if we look at this concrete path that I'm walking on now, I'm guessing this was probably one of the little roadways constructed for the airbase. And as you can see, this probably would have carried on up to what was probably runways for the aeroplanes to take off and land and stuff. But we can't go up there. Here we go, another concrete roadway going through the Parkland. That must be related to the old Air Force base. The next feature is this thing hidden in the middle of this little square. And this thing is called the Berwick Memorial. And this is a memorial to the 8th Lord Berwick, and it was the 8th Lord who gave Attingham to the National Trust. So here we go. To the memory of Thomas Henry, 8th Lord Berwick of Attingham, 1877 to 1947, whose ashes rest here. I'm guessing that's the family coat of arms or something. There's another inscription on the side here. At the bottom, he bequeathed his home and estate to the National Trust as a gift to the nation. And on the back, there's a little bit about the memory of Teresa, Lady Berwick of Attingham. He studied to leave his inheritance a thing of beauty that posterity might enjoy. So that's most of the Parkland covered. There's some lovely views from up here when you're heading back down from the Parkland towards the house. So you can see the house, and then to the right you've got that lovely row of cedar of Lebanon trees to the right. There's a little pond here just in front. So I've just left the Parkland, and hopefully next we'll be having a look inside the house. I should also mention that it's over 220 years since the landscape at Attingham was designed by Humphrey Repton, the great landscape architect, who was somewhat of a successor to Capability Brown. Thomas, 2nd Lord Berwick, commissioned Repton in 1797 to work on proposals for his land at Attingham. And Attingham is one of the few landscapes to have one of Repton's original red books in its collection, as well as his improvements still being evident in the landscape today. And 640 acres of parkland and gardens at Attingham have a Grade 2 star listed status. Let's have a look inside then. This is the entrance hall.
We know it's very important political highway. Anybody going through to Wales or to Ireland went over that bridge. And it's set on an angle. You haven't got it, so
This is the drawing room. Beautiful ceiling and chandelier. This room is filled with Italian white and gilded furniture brought back from Italy by the 3rd Lord Berwick. The furniture, which came from the Palazzo Belvedere, belonged to Caroline Murat, the sister of Napoleon. And then we'll go through to the picture gallery, which we'll have a better look at soon. As you can see, a lot of pictures around. Quite a lovely ceiling with the skylights. And then if we briefly leave the picture gallery, I think this might be called the Sultana room, which is sort of a smaller sitting room. And the best bit of this room is this little recess at the end here. Again, there's quite an elaborately decorated ceiling in this room, and a lovely chandelier again. Then we go through to just a little room. Nice barrelled ceiling. And then this leads through to the boudoir. And this is one of the feminine rooms of the house. And this would have been a private space for the lady of the house. Quite a nice ceiling again. And that's decorated with classical scenes and cherubs. And there's quite a nice fireplace with sort of Corinthian columns next to it, leading up to the ceiling. More classical scenes on the walls. Window shutters are closed in this room, as you can see. And if we leave this room, I think we'll be heading back towards the picture gallery via a corridor, probably. Yeah, so we're going back into the picture gallery now. This is probably the grandest room in the house. And this was one of the rooms that was redone by Nash when he arrived here. It's quite an impressive room. So as I was saying, around 1805 to 1807, the architect John Nash was brought in to construct the picture gallery to house the second Lord Berwick's art collection. In recent times, a new crimson carpet, matched to fragments of the original, was commissioned and made in Kidderminster, a place that's famous for its history in carpet manufacturing. And then this staircase leads up to the upper floors. And you can walk up and around this bit, but not any further. It looks really nice. And then back down we go. These sculptures at the top of the stairs. And then let's go back down. And through the picture gallery that we've just seen. And I think this is the dining room, but they've got all the curtains and stuff shut to protect the room, obviously. I don't know if you can see it, but the ceiling's very nice, and it's decorated with wheat and stuff like that. And the table's set up as if there was just about to be like a party or something. And then leaving the dining room, we'll go through to the inner library.
You'd have to buy two doors, isn't it?
It's harder work to
Yes.
design a door like that. Anyway, lovely.
Somebody can hide between the two doors. All the porcelain is French daggerté, and it belonged to Caroline Murat, Queen of Naples and Napoleon's sister. She had a Palace Belvedere in Italy. Now William, who eventually became the third Lord Benedict, spent 27 years of his life in Italy in the diplomatic service, and for a while he lived in her Palace Belvedere. And when he came back around about 1830,
There's some steps to get to the highest books.
he died almost immediately afterwards. So he had to negotiate. And he was also involved and almost working for William of Orange, who was William III. So there's a connection between him and
This leads through to an ante-room.
no.
A lot of pictures of cattle in it. There's also a couple of paintings that look like Canaletto, but I believe that they're fake. Here's the other one up here.
A big collection of books. And it said early
And there's a bit of taxidermy in this case. And then I believe this leads through to the octagon room, and the shape of it should explain the name, I believe. And I believe that this has formerly been used as an office and stuff like that. And this is sort of on the more masculine side of the house. paths down here, so we've got some sort of hallway. And this might take us back to the entrance hall, possibly. Right, now we're going downstairs. So this will be all the servants' quarters and stuff. There we have the bells for summoning servants to whatever room they were needed in. And these actually go pretty much all the way around the room.
This must be there.
This is the room where the servants used to eat. There we go, head coachman, under butler, footman, a drinking vessel. Ooh. Room for the silver. That was kept under lock and key. A big strong door. Let's have a look at the housekeeper's room. And this is quite a nice room, as far as staff rooms go. Down here. A window here for a little bit of light for the servants downstairs.
If we're the housekeeper room, this is the housekeeper room. Okay.
This is the still room. It's a bit of a labyrinth down here, really. Mm. That's where I came from. That's private. This is the kitchen in here. Servants' quarters here are very accessible. This is the working pantry, apparently. This is the butler's pantry. For ironing newspapers and stuff. I think I've covered all the servants area. Apparently this is the way out. Some luggage and stuff. That's the door I've just come out of. As you can see around the back of the house, it's not quite as posh as it is at the front. Have a little walk through. This is the courtyard. I came in pretty much first thing when I got here this morning. And there's that rotunda again on top of that sort of archway entrance. So yeah, this is just that courtyard to the rear of the house. There's that rotunda again. And just inside this archway, look, you can see the little steps to get up into where the sort of clock workings and stuff are. Obviously locked at the moment, but it's nice that you can actually see the steps. The last few things I'm going to look at are the walled garden, the orchard and the bee house. Okay, so we're at the walled garden now, but before I go in and have a look, we're going to have a look at a different feature. And this is called the bee house, at the back end of this little field. And this bee house is actually grade 2 listed, and apparently it's one of only 2 surviving Regency bee houses in the country. And apparently this bee house might have held up to 12 hives. And you might be able to see that it's got a slate roof to keep the hives dry. And the lattice work was to enable the bees to fly in freely. Here we go. This is the inside. And apparently this building dates back to around 1805, but it has been restored in recent times. So like I say, these are very rare. There's only 2 such examples known in the country. This is quite a peaceful little area up here by the walled garden. And as you could see, there aren't actually any bees kept in there at the moment. They're actually kept in other hives across the estate and looked after by the beekeeper and volunteers. So now we'll go and have a look inside the walled garden. And this was actually constructed on slightly raised ground, so that there was less risk of flooding from the nearby river. Okay, so here we go. And apparently this is quite an impressive survival, this particular walled garden is. And this was built in around the 1780s. Fresh produce is grown here, which is actually used in the tea rooms and restaurants, and also sold to visitors. Water needed for this garden was lifted from this well in buckets. And then the water was stored in this dipping pool here in the centre of the garden, and then taken to wherever it was needed in the garden. I think there's a similar dipping pool to this at Shugborough. And then there's another part on the side of this walled garden, and what looks like a lovely example of a glasshouse here. And on this side here, you can actually see sort of the derelict bases of some glass houses that were obviously there in the past, but they've gone now. But the good thing is, it actually allows us to see the pipework for the heating system still in place. And obviously that would have been used in the colder months to allow them to still grow certain fruits and varieties and stuff that otherwise wouldn't grow in our climate. But yeah, the surviving glass house, that's beautiful. And up against the wall of this glass house, there's actually an old wheeled water carrier. And that looks like it's still probably in use today. That's quite interesting. And this glass house apparently was restored in around 2018, and they now call it the Melon House. This is the gardener's bother. And then against the outside wall of the walled garden, you got various little buildings for different uses down here. So one was the mushroom house. This one was the root store. Somewhere to collect water in it again. That was the fruit store. And this is the boiler house. You can see there a very old boiler stuck down there. So obviously the water from the boiler would have gone inside the walled garden and then gone around those glass houses to keep those heated up. And next to the boiler house you've got a little sort of covered storage area for various bits and bobs and wood. And then right next to the walled garden we've got the orchard, and the orchard contains over 300 fruit trees with many varieties including apples, pears, cherries, apricots, peaches, nectarines and plums. And these estates were sometimes known as living larders, because fish from the rivers, meat from the deer park and fruit and vegetables from the walled garden would provide dining for the family and their guests and their staff. So they were basically self-sufficient estates. So this has been Attingham Park, and I would recommend it for a few hours in the afternoon to explore or whatever. Very nice place. So thanks again for watching as usual. I really appreciate it, and I shall see you next time. Thanks a lot.